I joined for 4 years. I thought I would go back and work in the oil fields in West Texas. But then I fell in love with the people. I had an academic advisor when I was in the band at A&M who was a civil engineer that I loved and looked up to, and so I wanted to be like him. And so that's how I chose civil engineering. I chose the Air Force after my sophomore year, and they offered me a scholarship. It was a great decision. I got to be involved with a mission that's bigger than me. Didn't envision being at war most of my adult life in some kind of conflict, starting with Desert Shield, Desert Storm, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
During your travels to the installations or the AOR, what would be some examples of some inspiring things our civil engineering airmen are doing that inspire you?
Inspiring is pretty easy. I see a lot of different faces over my career. I think of Chris Ramaka, who's a senior master sergeant today, lost his leg in an IED incident and has redeployed back into the theater with a prosthetic limb, and he's leading airmen today. When I got to watch him swim in the Warrior Games, it's incredible to see the resilience and the fight that they have, and we've got to be alongside them for the journey. I think about Chris Meeker. I first knew him as Captain Meeker. He was up here on the air staff when I came in on one of my tours, and he had this great energy, and he had books, and he had ideas, and he would bring those ideas to life. And then those groups that he's involved with just run 1,000 miles an hour because they're working together and they're thinking together. Captain Amela Sanders, I got to meet her early on in her career. She was in Bosnia, and she was a recipient of aid drop from C-17s. Then her family came to the United States as refugees, and she made the mistake of going to the University of Texas, but today she's a captain of the United States Air Force. And those stories are great reminders of what an honor and privilege it is to get to serve on behalf of this nation, because we do go out and we are a nation that pursues good and helps others.
So when you look back at your Air Force career, look back to when you were a second lieutenant.
That's pretty green.
What advice would you give yourself?
Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to fail. I think we are still too often a risk-averse community. Any success I've had is because I've been willing to take risk, to go out on a limb and to, in many cases, support the ideas of our airmen around me. I remember even when I was a Mission Support Group Commander at Nellis, the Deputy BCE at Nellis had this great vision of solar arrays. And we had all these people telling us why we couldn't do it. And we put in one of the first large-scale solar arrays in the Air Force, and we broke the ground before I left. None of it was my idea, but it was the idea of a deputy-based civil engineer, a civilian who had a vision, and everybody had a reason not to take the risk. Take the risk. Go for it.
So for an airman today, how would you tell them to deal with adversity?
To deal with adversity, I think one is persevere. And be willing to look in the mirror. I would also say that I've learned more in the adverse times in my career. I've learned more about myself, I've learned more about the organization, and it has fundamentally affected who I am as a leader. 9/11 brings back a lot of memories. So I was here in the building that day, and I think at its roots there's two elements that are important for me personally. When we left the building that morning, we flew. It is a beautiful day. And you look down and you could see people walking across 14th Street Bridge trying to get out of D.C. because they were afraid, right? They were afraid of the unknown. They were afraid of what might come next. And you flew out and you saw the Pentagon burning. You saw no aircraft moving at Reagan National Airport. And so as I looked down that day, I really resolved in my mind that, I would stay and serve as long as I could be helpful. And then it's also about those we lost. Lost a good friend of mine in the Navy Operations Center. So all that strikes close to home. It wasn't the first time I'd lost a friend at war. Cliff Bland was killed in an AC-130 gunship, early in my career, and so I had experienced that already. But it was different because it was at home. There was never a doubt after that.
So your family has been very important as part of your career. What has that meant to you? And what do you see Air Force families meaning to our airmen?
So you're right. My family's been really important to me. they've given me permission for 30 years to do what I love and to serve this nation in that way. And they could have asked me to stop, and I would have. So that's allowed me to ask them to move 17, 18 times, to ask my children to go to 3 high schools, and they've come out resilient, talented with this outstanding worldview, I think. So it's pluses and minuses along the journey, and they've been willing to do it. When I think of Air Force families, it means a lot of different things. But really, when I think about our families, I think probably of a few, and I'll mention 2. Master Sergeant Des DeLorean and his wife Lisa, EOD technician, triple amputee, and Lisa's commitment to Des through all the treatment and all the follow-on care after his injuries. I've got a picture in one of the briefs I give with Des and Lisa and their son, and Des has completed a race post-injury in his wheelchair. It's our spouses that allow us to do those kinds of things. I think of Tech Sergeant retired Chris Farrell and his wife Lauren. Chris is another EOD technician that suffered brain injuries and PTSD, and it was the point at which Lauren and his boss kind of made him go back and get help, and so he's in a different place today. And those 2 families, they invest in lives today to help spouses understand these tough journeys, to help NCOs and airmen learn to be leaders and to take care of people. They have hung up their uniform officially, but man, they're part of the family. And so that's what, it's not just, it's our personal families, and it's big Air Force families. And I'm thankful for my family and what they've let me do.
So here at the end of your career, what makes you proud to be a United States Air Force civil engineer?
Wow, the people. I mean, it's the people I've been able to serve with, the honor of getting to serve with them. I had the chance last year to go through Korea, go through the CENTCOM AOR. I think of men and women who lock and load their weapon, roll out the gate, and whether they're doing a resupply mission, whether they're doing a convoy operation, whether it's EOD doing route clearance, men and women who are willing to put themselves in harm's way. And you look and you see the things, the talent, the innovation of our airmen today. That's what makes me proud. They're out solving problems today for today's fight, and they're thinking about the future. You go visit AFCIC, our environmental men and women who are out working in natural cultural resources to assure our access to ranges that allow us to train. I think about John Allen coming in and what he's going to do for our community. I'm incredibly proud of the people that make this operation go.
So we're growing our M strength in the Air Force, and as you're leaving, we're going to have a fresh wave of airmen coming in. What message would you leave to them?
Wow, so I think a message of opportunity and excitement, and to enjoy the journey. When I think about the future, what opportunities to continue to advance the state of the art for our nation, and to help us ensure that we can go out and open bases and operate bases and close bases, to ensure that we can launch satellites, to use technology and cyber and SMS systems and become more data focused so that we can make better decisions, both at the installation level and at the global level. So, the world is going to continue to change. It's going to change as much in the next 10 years as it's probably changed in my 30 years in some areas. And yet some foundational principles will be the same. The foundational principles of integrity and service, and pursuing excellence. The mission, the fundamentals of that, they're unchanging, and the people are unchanging. I hope you all can enjoy the future relationships and partnerships as much as I have. I stayed in the Air Force because I love the people I served with, and I had a great mission, and I hope others can experience the same thing.